This video contains content sponsored by John Wilson Blades and MK Blades. Opinions discussed in this video do not reflect the views of John Wilson or MK.
Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Leese and I'm thrilled to welcome the man behind Skating Protocol, Mark Lee. Mark, welcome to the skating lesson.
Thanks.
So you are our resident sleuth where it comes to the IJS on Instagram. So I guess how did this dream of yours come about? Explain this to all of your many fans.
Well, first of all, Dave, thank you for the support and helping me get started on it.
Yes.
But obviously, I'm an adult skater and obviously a fan, but I wanted to create something that would cover both the judging but the technical aspects of the sport. I don't feel like there's actually that many resources out there that are really digging into that really technical, nuanced, drilling down to the level that I'm assuming that the international coaches are drilling down when they're looking at the judging sheets, looking at what judges are giving folks when it comes to GOE, is the scoring fair, and then as well as some of the more really, really detailed things beyond even edge calls, but losing a whole element, why that happens, etc.
So you're about 100 posts in, and one of the things I wanted to ask you was, how much has it surprised you? Everyone always complains about aberrant judging or laughs about inflation, but is there a certain moment or call throughout the season that has made you laugh the hardest? Because I have to think someone falling and getting a +2 at Russian Nationals was one of my favorite posts that you had. Which ones stand out for you?
So I think, I would say it's that the fall getting the +2. I think, as Americans, I think we often like to give that stereotype to the Russian judging. I unfortunately through Russian Nationals really wasn't impressed by that, and I think it's really discouraging to see that happen. It has to be those the pluses, not just for Koyata but for the pairs team as well, getting positive GOE for things that are really not good at all.
I really like it now that we can see which judges are which, but I have to say that it's all nationals. I am very intrigued for U.S. Nationals coming up. I'm very curious to see what kind of posts you'll have from the scores, because I remember looking at the PCS back in 2011. Jeremy Abbott was off of the world team, and I remember seeing that there wasn't a big difference in PCS amongst Jeremy Abbott versus Ross Minor, Richie Dornbush, and Ryan Bradley, and that was Jeremy's strength, and yet they were getting almost equally high components within a point, and you're thinking, wait, but that's his quad. Those edges are his Patrick Chan weapon, and they often get sliced. The men were very close in components last year. Max, Aaron, Adam, Nathan. So I'm very curious how this works, especially for the men.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I'm most concerned about as, when you're following the sport and when you're looking at the numbers so much, it is that PCS inflation. And we're not even only talking about at nationals when you're, seeing every Russian lady get above 75, we're talking about, everybody going up to the point where, where if Yuzuru Hanyu is getting, 120 in technical, but he's only, a point off from Patrick in PCS, there's nowhere for the judges to go anymore. So whereas before at nationals, before the Jeremy Abbott, example you're giving, I feel like the judges at least had a choice to be more courageous, but now there's nowhere to go, and so it's entirely technical.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens as we move in, but let's talk about the ladies event, because this is, to me, I really I haven't done my fantasy picks yet. I don't have a clear gut feeling about what's going to happen. I could see it kind of coming in a couple of different ways. I think, there are the big names as always. So let's kind of break down, what are you seeing for Ashley? What do you think based on how the season has gone?
So I think the first thing with Ashley is, at least, if anything, I commend her in the teleconferences for at least owning up to the things that she needs to work on. I feel like, I think that the U.S. Federation would be entirely mistaken not to put her on the team, basically, unless, even if she pulls a 2014, still we know that she's the only one who can internationally get the PCS, along with Gracie, but get that PCS even if she under-rotates like every other jump. What I want to see with her is really just, especially with the spins, whether she's going to hit level 4, she's going to hit all the positions in the combination spin, and really show that she's, yes, I don't want to say serious because it's not like she's not working hard, but really showing that she's committed to getting every single little point the way that the other ladies are, the way that Satoka Miyahara doesn't have that great jumps either, but she gets every little point, every single GOE that she can to get up there, even with lower PCS. And I think Ashley, in some ways, you look at this year, right? We were saying, all the ladies don't really have, no one really had a super strong season. And so Ashley can almost kind of coast to a victory here without working that hard the whole season, right?
I don't think that's good for her. I noticed that Ashley tends to do her best if her back is up against the wall a little bit. I mean, sometimes we've seen that she comes off of, the Grand Prix final, and maybe she has a little bit of a break, or one year she had an injury at the Grand Prix final where she had that horrific fall, and then she came into nationals a little bit less than 100% prepared. Last year she was looking really strong, and then I noticed that they were reworking the triple and she started to have some problems with it in the practice. And it was interesting because throughout the week the triple started to go, and as it got closer to the event, and still last year, had she landed that last Lutz, you wonder if that would have impacted the components, what would have happened. But it was, the ladies event last year at Nationals was such a strong event, and I do think that it'll be an interesting event this year because no one is a clear favorite. For Ashley, Raphael gave a quote to Ice Network about how he was gone for 10 days. He doesn't think that helped her, but they've been working with each other now for a long time. I expect a strong performance from Ashley. She could leave the door open a bit. Would you send Ashley to 4 continents because she hasn't liked to go to 4 continents in the past? Does she need to go because she didn't make the final?
I actually don't think she needs to go in terms of to get the scores that she needs at Worlds, right? To get the little boost that she always seems to get just by being older and experienced and there. I'd rather see them use 4 continents to differentiate who they will send as the 2nd and 3rd spots, to really make sure, for instance, if Gracie comes in and actually has all her jumps and is able to perform, I think she needs to prove it that we can trust her again. And same thing with whoever that 3rd team member is, because I don't trust any of the ladies fully. I just don't know. I think the U.S. Federation, they decide at nationals, right? That's part of the policy.
And I think that it's something that they should really look towards changing. Look, Mark, when we run the Federation in the coming years, I think that what we need to do is really test out some girls at 4 continents to see which ones we're investing in for next season.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to see Mariah Bell have to back it up at 4 continents, but I do think it's a chance for an Ashley to get that 4 continents title. We have not seen her at 4 continents in many years. Gracie had a chance at the 4 continents title the last 2 seasons and didn't get the job done there. So I think it's a chance for any of the American ladies to pick up a medal, a title. It's been a great place for Mariah in the past. So I'm curious. All right, you mentioned Gracie Gold. You heard the teleconference. You read the article about Phil Hirsch.
You must be bitch everything.
What's your take on Gracie after this point in the season?
I think we're all. I think my guess is as good as yours. When from the teleconference, I was really encouraged. I think she actually seems, at least in that moment on the call, and she normally has a pretty good job on those calls of playing the princess face, right, and being like, I'm prepared. And in past years, she's been a bit more honest, which I appreciate. But I really felt like it was genuine fire in her. I think that especially her short program has the ability to bring it out of her, and I think that it's going to be really down to how much did Alex really do those 2 weeks she was there, right?
I almost wonder if she should have spent one more week with him. If it was working, you wonder, how long do you keep her there, getting her back to in fighting gear just mentally. But I'll be curious to see if she goes back to him for a couple weeks before Worlds. It might not be a bad thing. Working with Shoma Uno has to be encouraging as well.
Yeah.
You just wonder, what mindset is she going to be in? I don't think that Gracie's problem is going to be purely technical. I think it's going to be, does she have the confidence? Frank said he hopes that she has enough time. She's someone that likes a ton of repetitions behind her. She probably doesn't have those clean programs in a bank, but this is Gracie Gold. And look, I think that if Gracie Gold flips the switch on and decides that she thinks that she could be national champion, that she could do it. And I think that's...
Well, I was thinking back to 2015 when she had that stress fracture, right? And she was off the ice, and then she only had 10 days again. And okay, she lost to Ashley, but I think her worst mistake was falling on a Lutz and doubling a toe. That's still, she could even still win with that, depending on how everything shakes out, right? So I want her, if anything, though, and I think I'm gonna. We'll see what you see on the practices when you're there, right?
Yeah.
I want her, even if she falls apart in the programs, I want her to be there doing triple triples and practices to psych up Ashley.
She usually does do close to how she does in practice and competition. I think that that's one thing with Gracie is that if there are problems on practice, they usually show up in competition. When she's feeling good in practice, she usually has a good competition. So that's one of the ones. Then you have Paulina, who doesn't show you anything in practice usually. I'll be curious to see Mariah this week though, and she's definitely going to do the triple axel in practice. We saw a smoking triple axel on Instagram yesterday. What is your take? Is she going to do the triple axel? Does she need it? What does this all say? What do the tea leaves say for Mariah at this point in her career?
So I'm excited to see the triple axel. I think that video we saw was, I mean, one of the best ladies triple axels. It's better than many of the ones Mao does.
Yeah.
Clean. You know what I mean? It was huge. And I think Tom Z and his Z squad, he said, that she actually does it in the full run-throughs regularly. And he says he saw 10 clean ones the other day or things like that, right? I'm still just worried
that I could say that she does it in both programs, if that makes the story better. But she really just does it in the long. That's...
I guess I'm just worried, we already see her having those rotation issues even without that. And for all, I mean, granted, if she's been, peaking and she's been doing her conditioning and, Tom plans it out. So she's looking to peak at nationals, kind of like she did, I think, last year. Well, she peaked at 4 continents, I guess. But, this time of year, she was even stronger this time of year than she was at Worlds. Yeah. If she peaks, I mean, she could do it. I think it'll be really interesting, though. As an American fan, there's the nostalgia, and the judges are totally. I think if she goes clean with the triple axel, of course the judges are going to award her and possibly give her champion. My concern is whether that PCS will hold up fully internationally. She does get better PCS than Karen or Mariah, but we haven't seen it. Like at Worlds, it actually didn't go that high relative to some of the other skaters.
Yeah, we really haven't seen her perform with the confidence and with all of the personality, especially in a free skate, all the way through. Since she was quite new on the scene, which comes with nerves, comes with the confidence in her technique. I do think she looks feisty, and the one thing with Mariah is she can be a little bit up and down. If Mariah's in a good mood and everything is going well, it can all happen for her. I get the sense that the physical shape that she has to be in to do that triple axel is so immense. It's probably one of the most powerful triple axels we've seen since Midori Ito and Tanya Harding.
Yeah.
I would say Tuktamisheva is up there. Tuktamisheva is pure, just great technique as well. Mariah is pure power. When you see her, she's almost over-rotating it to make sure there is no
better than some of our men's.
Yeah, it's bigger than most of the men's. It looks like a quad. And I tend to think that even if she doesn't do the triple axel, the program will be strong. I think that she's in a good place.
Yeah.
I expect her to be in the mix, and I think that portends to a top 3. I expect her to at least be at 4 continents. Regardless of if she makes the world team, I think she's going to be at 4 continents. I see her making this world team at this point. I think that she has kind of put in the training to do that.
Yeah, my question to you, because I was thinking about this the other day, I think something that you used to always say, when you used to talk about her, especially last year or the year before, was whether or not she was giving face, and she was fully there. And I wonder, because while as we're all nostalgic for Mariah, we all want her to go back and bring back all that time, but when I'm actually watching her, I notice that when she's actually going through a good program, like NHK, she's very similar to Gracie, where she goes into this like very concentrated game face mode, which is where that maybe lack of face you've talked about before. I'm wondering if you actually think that's really improved, because even though I feel the feistiness, I wonder if that's just because we almost like are more familiar with her as an athlete, so we can tell the little bit of, oh, she's got a little bit of perk today. But even then, I still feel like it's not fully on.
I would like to go back to one great skater from 2002 who started to have that focus on when she was having a rough season, is that Michelle Kwan had a built-in face section to Scheherazade where she did the footwork, and all of a sudden she came alive at the end.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to Mariah, is that she has the Michelle Kwan spiral sequence at the end of her free skate. So if she is very focused and dialed in and then just lets it rip at the end, that could be a nationals moment, and I think that the crowd and the judges will respond to that in kind if all goes well. I think the X factor here is Mariah Bell, and I think that Mariah Bell is someone who showed us, you know, she's done it at the summer competitions before. She had a good free skate at nationals 2 years ago. It's time for her to show up with expectations.
Yeah.
She went from the great performance at Skate America to not such a great performance at the Talon Cup, especially when there was talk about how she didn't get the second Grand Prix. She's someone who really needs to back it up. Luckily for her, I don't think many people will remember Mariah Bell competing at the Talon Cup or that event even happened. So I think that if she does well here, people will remember Skate America and remember her great nationals performance. Do you think that she will deliver in?
So, I've been going back and forth on this.
It's the do or die moment of her career.
It is. And you know, the thing is that actually out of some of the top ladies, I think that she has some of the most stable technique on a lot of her jumps. The landing position is my life. Like, I watch that Skate America and every landing I'm just like, that, you know, the everything. I think I saw there was an interview I think Roth gave in one of the Ice Network articles or something, but he basically said that she couldn't, that he didn't want to claim credit for Skate America because they haven't been working that long. And he even like provided this cagey response of like, she could be 50-50. It was almost, he was like, leveling expectations in case she
didn't. Character too. There's always a method to his madness. Yes. And
I think he knows, given the up and down year of, you know, Ashley and he wants, and even Adam in some points, right, the Grand Prix final, he likes to set expectations, right? So
he doesn't. I think the interesting thing is that Mariah worked with Rapine right before Skate America. He came in to kind of touch up her programs and make her work, because Roth is not known for working on the footwork and the spins as much as he focuses on the jumps.
Yeah.
And Roheen came in there and sassed her and trained her little butt off on those elements right before Skate America, and it paid off and gave her that extra little confidence. He's been doing shows recently, so he hasn't been visiting her. We saw him working with Chalk and Bates. He's back in Fenway Park today. He was just doing a show in Long Island. So I'm curious how she's going to do. This is really her time with Raphael. Raphael also has Nathan Chen and Ashley, so you have to think that she is priority number 3 with Adam out.
Yeah.
Now, when Adam was there, he had all top skaters, and he's getting Breshna ready for Europeans, but Breshna has been so much like this, you have to give Mariah Bell's a chance for him. And Raphael knows that the ladies are where it's at in America. So I am very curious to see what is going to happen with her. I think that the fact that she wanted to change coaches and take this step in her career might mean that there's some fire there, and I think that this is going to be the moment that defines her.
I think so too, because I think it could be a defining, I mean, it's this right here, and not even just whether or not she gets, because she could, if let's say Mariah hits a triple axel and Mariah also skates clean and she gets 4th or something, you know, like whatever, that's fine. But if she needs to be on this year to have a chance for 2018.
I imagine that some years at Nationals, the short is the do or die event. I kind of think that the short may be rocky for a couple of these girls, and it's going to come down to free skate.
Yeah.
Ashley Wagner's been a free skate skater before. Gracie, one program can be strong, the other could be. You don't know what's going to happen.
It's not usually what happens.
Yeah. I think with some of these people, like Mariah Bell, she could be a free skate performer. Now let's talk about some of the X factors, because there's Karen Chen. I think you have to look at Courtney Hicks, who's been around. Karen and Courtney both bombed the short last year and then kind of came back in the free skate. I don't anticipate them both having 2 falls in the short again. That was rather shocking.
Yeah.
So, and then there's Caroline Zhang, who's back in the mix. So what is, rounding out that top 6, that final group, who are you looking at?
So Karen Chen, as you know, is my Taiwanese American daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about this, and I just, one of the more annoying things to me was looking at actually the NHK free skate scoring. You've talked about Mariah, and she said on the teleconference herself about the scoring. Karen Chen is also one, I think, her base value and her ability to hit the jumps, even though we've said that she has some rotation issues, if you actually look, her issue is really on just the triple toe combinations, right? She has a double axel, a triple sow that it's never really in question, neither are her other jumps. And so I think that she, unfortunately, internationally, the judges didn't want to go with her in many places. And I don't see why she has to have, she had 7 points lower PCS than Sotskova at NHK. And I'm like, I actually think that, if anything, some of her presentation skills are maybe more of her strengths compared to, some other things about her skating. But I see that with Mariah hitting the triple axel, I think Karen's fighting to maybe get to 4 continents. But I still see that she has a lot of long-term potential. So I hope she's one of the ones that I've been thinking of. She's been with Tammy Gamble for a long time, and they've done a great job. But I think in many ways it's kind of like something still isn't working to get her to that next level. And so, like with Mariah, I'd like her to maybe, whether it doesn't have to be leaving a coach completely, but figure something out that's different, because something's not working to tap on the talent I think she has.
I think she's really shown, especially when you say the components. She has the spiral sequence. Sometimes it's not always right in the music where it should be. I think that
she gives face.
Yeah, I think the choreographer, especially as she gets older, could be Courtney Hicks. I'm curious because she's someone that has medaled on the Grand Prix. She's always an X factor. I see from her Instagram she has a boyfriend, so she looks very happy. We don't, that could be a good thing for some competitors, a bad thing for others. I think for Courtney, I'm curious how she's going to do. I think she put a lot of pressure on herself last year before Nationals, had really put everything to really improve the artistic side of her skating. I think she's continuing to work on it. I wonder what will happen. She's not going for a triple axel, to my knowledge. She has kind of been under the radar, and I wonder if that could be good for her, because I see her as this scrappy underdog always. So I think that could benefit her, that there's not a lot of attention on her going into Missouri.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what improvements she's made with her new coach this year. I think that I think she's also an interesting one where for a long time in U.S. skating, she was known for the big jumps. But if you actually look at the way that jumps in the world, like how it's changed, I mean, it's really big, but is she getting positive GOE on it if it swings around, or if it's, the air position's funky, or, the entrance weird? I think that I'm really interested to see, actually, even though people are probably going to be like, oh, let's look at her performance changes since she changes coach, I'm actually really interested to see how much they change up her technique. You saw that a little bit, I think, on her second Grand Prix especially. They talked about how they're changing the way that she does it. I want to see it become more controlled, because yes, her height can get good GOE, but she's not getting that when the landings are all whack and everything.
I wonder, especially because she's with Todd Sand, who was taught by Mr. Nix, and she's been taught by Mr. Nix before, and I wonder how much a part of the equation he is, if they have him looking over her once every couple weeks. So that would be an interesting thing to find out with her. I'm also curious about Amber Glenn. There's someone with a ton of talent we have seen, hasn't always put it together. I think everyone knows she has the athletic ability. I think she's someone that, if she shows up on the right day, could be a game changer at Nationals. So, and there's always kind of someone who sneaks in at Nationals and kind of can stir the pot. She's from Texas. They have a whole group with the Canes that are very supportive of one another, and they look to be making their move at these Nationals. So I'm curious about her. Caroline Zhang coming back as well. I think in the free, if she does a good free skate, I think she could really kind of shake things up a bit as well. So, have you made your fantasy picks yet? Money on it for number 1, number 2, number 3? Are you waiting? What's?
I'm still waiting. I want to see what they're doing in the practices.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I think the one thing I'm sure of is that Nathan Chen should win this national title. I was shocked that he didn't get it last year. No disrespect to Adam, but I was shocked the U.S. judges didn't say, we have a man that landed 4 quads, and we didn't do everything possible to make him our national champion. I think that they will make that up to him this season. I think that he could maybe skate through the second half of his free skate, and they will still make sure that he wins.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested to see how his they mentioned that he might do the quad sow, if not then at 4 continents, and obviously I'm sure they're doing a ton of work on that triple axel, which is always pretty pesky for him. I was thinking about this, and I wanted to ask you about this, because I feel like, from my perspective, when I watch him on the triple axel and the sow, he goes like out of the circle way more, and not only that, but I think one of the issues, and you saw this, like literally this happened in the exhibition on the quad toe last year when he like got injured, right? He lands, and he'll land on like an inside edge and then shift over, and like that, I don't know, as an adult skater, still like, even doing wall jumps, if you do that, it's painful when that happens, right? And just think about how much pressure that is on the hip. And I think when people talk about, are you worried about him breaking apart in the next few years? I think about, fix that axle, figure out, and whether it's out of the circle. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, he can swing, especially he can swing his takeoffs quite a bit, whether it be the axle or the sow. I think that 3 turned into it. And it's interesting because sometimes you look back and his success, I think, comes from intense willpower. Not just technique, but there's such a strength of character in this kid who's so determined.
He wants to
all
win.
All those years that he won. And I just remember Boston Nationals in 2014 that he was doing the axel for the first time. It did not look like a secure jump. He looked very tiny to be doing the jump. He goes out there and he had one of those falls where he whacked the ice and you hear like the body smack the ice that would normally take you out for a bit in a session. He got right up, went right to the other end, landed a triple axel. And I just think like that is Nathan. He is going to go out there and he's going to get this national title for himself. And I think the real question is who is going to join him on that world team. All right. Jason Brown's press call. I do not feel confident in his ability to finish second if he was not really jumping until days before. Based on a normal nationals, although we don't know what's going to happen, would you send him to Worlds anyway, even if he is not in the top two?
I would, but I would send him to 4 continents first, right?
Okay.
I think that there was a video I think his team posted of like their pre-nationals thing. I thought it was really interesting that they chose to show his Lutz and his flip toe, but not his axle.
Yes.
I think it's all going to come down to his axle, because even if the quad's not there, with the axle, both at nationals but also internationally, his scores are still about as good as Max, even with 2 quad saps, right? As long as the axles are at least like 2 out of 3 are clean, he can do it, right? We've seen him win the national title with 2 out of 3 beating quads, right?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know what to expect from Jason. I'm very curious to watch the practices. Anything is possible. He's definitely had injuries the last 2 seasons. He can show up. The one thing is when he's healthy, he typically shows up for competition. I agree that I would put him on the 4 continents team to kind of verify for Worlds. We're getting really out of this way of the Nationals. It's like a provisional entry to Worlds, but I think that he has shown with his international score that he could be competitive. And if the aim is to get 3 spots, the U.S. just missed last year, you have to see who could complement Nathan Chen the best. And I think that Jason Brown has that ability, but obviously his health is the question mark, so I would also have a really good alternate in line. And I think it may be time to, if Nathan takes that spot and goes to 4 continents, I think we have to look at the 3rd skater and look at which skater we want to develop for the future. And I think you have to start making some really gnarly calls that perhaps people haven't done before, but I think you have to look at Max Aaron. What is his potential? Where is he now? What is his long-term potential? Vincent Zoe, doing the quad flip. We've seen the quad sal with an under before. What is his status? What is the potential? Torgashev, what is the potential? And really kind of start to put one of those skaters in a position for long-term development for the future. Which one could make the Olympic team?
Because I think with Vincent and Torgashev, I think, first of all, Vincent didn't do any favors to himself with the Junior Grand Prix, which is really unfortunate, right? But I feel like at least the Federation can still send them to Junior Worlds and do that. That being said, with Max, I mean, you're talking about developing. I mean, I don't feel like I've seen that much development from him, right? Like, his quads are no longer that special. Maybe if he brings the quad toe and has 3 quads, but in the free, but I feel like, he's got to be counting his blessings this week with the 2, announcements from Adam and Jason. But at the same time, it's kind of, I'm curious to see what a short program is like, because maybe a short program is proving that, he wants to show how he's developed, but it's not, he hasn't really upped his game the way that Adam and Jason have.
So when you heard that Max was getting a new program, did you expect that the short was going to be the new program?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, the short, the same way, I mean, I like the short last year better than the long last year, because, he's had it for 2 years now, right? But it's never been a perfect, like, Cinderella, shoe fit, right? So I'm kind of curious to see what the program is like. It sounds like it's going to be kind of similar to Javi's.
I wasn't. We'll be waiting to see.
Yeah.
I just, you can only lead a horse to water. You cannot make it drink. We can only talk about the Lion King so many times. I didn't think that he needed to play a bullfighter in the short program. I didn't think that was necessary, but we'll be waiting to see. I'm very curious to see how Torgashev and how Vincent will do. They both seem to be very ambitious.
Yeah.
And gutsy. So I'm curious. But I also love to see the more artistic skaters. I'm very curious to see, Alex Johnson, Zelensky perform there. Whether they can have strong performances at nationals again this season. Yeah, and then you have to look at skaters like Sean Rabbit, who always winds up making himself in the top 10 mix. How Jordan Moeller comes back, and whether or not he will finally break through in some respects. So I'm very
Grant.
curious. And yeah, Grant as well. Grant is someone that has been off of my radar a little bit because he had a really rough fall season. He's someone who typically shows up at the national championships, and he has the components as well as the jumps when he does them. Do you expect Grant to be in the mix?
I feel like he'll be in the mix for maybe the top 5. I can't see. Especially. The good news is he at least has like a pretty relatively consistent, quad and axle. So he has that above, a Ross or a Tim, right? And yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of encouraged that with that. We've talked about for the longest time, like just like how we're talking earlier with Mariah and Karen, the moving the coaches thing. I'm just glad that it looks like the U.S. Federation, in fact, in advance of these nationals, it looks like they specifically sent Torgashev to Tom Z. And that they've been Vincent deciding to go back to Tom Z for whatever reason. I'm glad that it seems that they're really focusing on.
Nathan said that he was told to go back to Raphael if you paid attention to his teleconference. So that was an interesting choice of diction. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just saying that.
Which one's teleconference?
Nathan Chen said that he was told to go back to Raphael after one of his events, and I thought that was a really interesting. Change of phrase, that turn of phrase. I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's just, you hear things along the way. So I think that that's interesting to what that whole coaching situation has been.
Yeah.
Because there was never an official announcement when he originally was working with Marina and staying there, and then he said told to go back, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But I think that they are trying to put people in. It's a good thing putting people in a place where they're going to have success.
Yeah.
Success, our most successful, consistent discipline has been ice dance. I would say that the Shibutanis are almost a lock for the title, especially after medaling at the Grand Prix final. Who are you looking at for the second spot? What do the tea leaves tell you?
So I was thinking about this earlier, and I think because I know who you want to be the second spot, which is necessarily different from who you predict.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say who I think deserves to be the second spot versus who I would predict. Yeah.
So, well, deserves is a whole nother story, right? Because I feel like I was thinking about this with ice dance. There's no technical elements to really differentiate. It's all in perception of strength, weakness. It's like a marketing packaging campaign. And I was thinking about this because the Shibutanis were the perfect example of how they figured this out, right? They didn't have anything super special going on. They weren't doing so well, so they literally made a story out of them not doing well, becoming their special thing, along with their twizzles, right? Yeah. Which is fantastic. I'm a fan, etc. They own that up to it. Their free dance is obviously honing on those strengths, right? Chalk and Bates, their marketing is literally it's her, right? Like it's like she brings sex. She is, from the junior scene, the Eurosport commentators have been talking about how she's a star, right? And so they emphasize her, and they know not to focus on certain things. My question for you is, with Hubble and Donahue, what is the special thing about them that they should be emphasizing, and whether we feel like the programs, both of them, are really fully bringing that out this year? Because I feel like it's the romantic connection. But
they have a ton of chemistry with each other, whether it's in their short dance or whether it's in their free dance. Unfortunately, they're both dating another member of a Spanish ice dance team, so it really becomes complicated with them marketing that and presenting that. Luckily, Zach's girlfriend looks an awful lot like Madison Hubble, so if you're not paying too close attention, it almost looks like he is with Maddie. But I think the thing you're talking about marketing is that Chalk and Bates had the funniest line of their teleconference because they said that they were working on the romantic and tender points to Under Pressure. And I don't get a romantic vibe from their free dance at all, wherever, and I thought that was just a funny moment. But you speak about marketing, there's a lot of photos of them together, to the point that I get getting messages in my inbox from fans asking if they're together based on their Instagram posts, and I think that they are definitely one of the ice dance couples that is playing up to are they or aren't they in a relationship as we head towards the national championships. I think that Hubble and Donahue's free skate will do very well if they skate it cleanly. In the U.S., I think that it could be the game changer if they're close after the short dance.
Yeah. I feel like I get that because my issue with them is I'm worried about almost like a longer term thing, and it comes into play with what we think about Hawaii and Baker and their long term stuff. But it's kind of similar if their strength is the romantic, right? How I guess I'm worried that their program this year, the free, is really similar to their program, the short program last year that everyone loved, right?
Which is on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm wondering how they will like emphasize that further, but also the programs. I don't really feel moments.
Sex well before the two of them with their "I Put a Spell on You" and even when they did the Bohemian Rhapsody, it was quite strong. I think they have really a nice languid style of skating. I think when they tried to do the flamenco, while it was a valiant effort, it looked sloppy. I think for them, they have a long, clean line look to them, and they're not as tiny and agile as other people, so they tend to have long, flowing movements. It could be good for the rumba next year. It's probably not good for the more staccato programs. So it's look, and the thing with Hubble and Donahue is that they've always been right there, and sometimes they just have the little mistake, like at the Grand Prix final.
Yeah.
They were ahead of Chalk and Bates convincingly. I don't think we'd be having this conversation if they finished two spots ahead of them at the Grand Prix final, or several points ahead of them. They had that little mistake on the twizzles at the end of the program, and that kind of puts us into play here. I think it would have been a stronger thing. Also, Marie France is not going to be at U.S. Nationals. She has to go to Canadian Nationals.
And Igor.
Having the coach be the politician certainly helps. She's an outsider. That doesn't necessarily help them nationally. They certainly are helped internationally. When you train with skaters from all different countries, that is a benefit. That's why you see Igor, Marina take on the random team for Israel or the random team for Great Britain, especially if there are lots of British judges or British people on the ice dance technical committee. So I think that this is an interesting thing moving forward. Hawaii and Baker, I would expect them to make a strong showing here. I don't see them being fifth again. I think that was a kind of a wake-up call to kind of find an identity and get on with it. They had a struggle of a season last year. But how about the pairs? Are you seeing, it looks like it is Haven and Brandon that they are getting the buzz, that this is going to be their year, especially with Tara Kane having a knee injury. Will they walk away with this title?
I think so, but interestingly, it's like when you actually look at on paper what the two teams bring, technically they have really similar elements. You know, they both struggle with similar things. I was thinking about this as well, because same with Kane and O'Shea. I'm wondering, you know, what is their voice, right? What is the something special about them that they need to be bringing out? Because Danny and Fraser, they know they don't have the jumps. You know, they know that they struggle with that, but they program their program to at the end build with the lifts to really emphasize, like, look at how strong he is and how beautiful she is up there. Whereas Kane and O'Shea, even though they did really well at NHK, I was rewatching it and I was feeling like this is nice, but there's nothing in here to really compel the judges to go +2, +3 GOEs. There's nothing to really compel the judges to make them, show off. And it's kind of like, what is the special thing about them that will help them break through? Because there's a lot of teams at Worlds that will have, one triple and a double axel for the jumps. They'll have maybe 2 triple throws, no quad anything, and they're just going to be in the middle of that bucket if they go. And so I think the key for them is figuring out how to package that and really show it so the judges actually want to go with them, because otherwise that's why they're like 10, 15 points behind Brandon and Haven, right?
Yeah, I think with Kane and O'Shea, their consistency has usually been their hallmark. And they usually have good programs that highlight them well. I wouldn't say that they always have like the strongest program in the U.S. I can't think of like a standout. I think last year's short certainly was very refreshing at the time.
Yeah.
And they kind of hit at the right moment, right when Alexa and Chris were having some struggles with their consistency, and it came together right at the right moment for them. I think this year it's going to be a little bit harder with Tara's knee injury. Mr. Peterson always takes his teams for nationals. We've seen it in the past.
Yeah,
that they usually do well.
they'll be ready. Yeah.
I don't know if he picked the right warhorse for them this season for the free skate. Song of India just doesn't swoop me in the same way that Phantom of the Opera does. I mean, he picks some really generic music, but it's used again and again because it's effective.
Yeah.
So I think that this program doesn't build quite as spectacularly as some of the other warhorses that he has used in the past.
Well, and some of the bills are on these lifts where I know they're trying to do these positions that are like exotic and match the music, but I don't know. Just I don't aesthetically. I think their lifts last year looked better than some of the unique positions this year.
I enjoy Tara's makeup and costuming more than I enjoy the actual program this year when it comes to the free skate.
Yes.
To me, it's just not their best. I enjoy other programs they've done in the past. I like their Don Quixote much better. You know, I've liked their James Bond program in the past. To me, the gimmick on this one doesn't work as well as it has in the past with them. But I think that they've had a rough fall, and she talked about how she's had knee problems, things.
Yeah.
She was sick last season in 2016, so it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it together because I think that they're training to do well. You can start to see when the sass is coming out on Instagram when she's getting ready in her post that I think they're feeling pretty good, but I'm looking to which team is going to join those two teams at Four Continents. Is it going to be the Marissa and Mervyn show? Will they get knocked off? Will it be Ashley and Tim, which they seem to have a lot of momentum. They sure build a lot of their own momentum on social media.
Yeah.
Constantly posting videos, promoting each other, having their teammates promote them. And then you look at some of the other teams, Deanna and Nate. I mean, Deanna is a very, very talented skater. Nate has been to the Olympics. They could surprise. I don't think that they're in that position to get the bronze yet. I would think maybe a pewter is more likely, but I'm wondering what you're thinking for pairs.
I vote Kane and Leduc. I feel like, and this is somebody who when Mervyn and Marissa first got together, I remember watching at Nationals live and just being like, wow, I feel like this team has the potential. I just feel like, especially you look at the two programs they have, just the season that they have. Again, it's what will make them differentiate if they're not going to have a quad. What will differentiate this team? Whereas I feel like with Kane and Leduc, there is a lot that they're already showing as a new team, right? Even if the programs, which I don't even necessarily love, but the flexibility that they both have and they play on it, and just the way that the program really emphasizes their strengths, you already get the sense of, oh, he is special, and she's pretty good too, but he is special, and you feel that, and they emphasize it, and they already have the technical elements that Castelli and Tran have struggled with for 2 years, right? So I think they have a bit more long-term potential, but we still don't know how they perform hardcore under pressure either.
Yeah, I think with them, they have to make it through the triple twist, and then the other elements will really be rather strong. If you look at Marissa and Mervyn, they have the look when they are on. They both have a charisma.
Yes.
They don't always work together with that charisma. They sometimes there is a push and a pull. They usually do a good short program, and if they do a good short program, I think that they will be in the mix. I think that anything is possible. They have not put together a strong free skate in competition yet this season. We didn't see many strong free skates from them last season, so we have to wonder. It is a good program. The second year, not as exciting, not as special. They could go out there and do it. Do they give it the same energy they did the first time around? I mean, I'm not as wowed by the program the second year, but home crowd, nationals, could happen. I don't know. It's going to be interesting in the training to really watch them and if they practice.
Yeah.
She has the great lift positions. She has everything. It's interesting because Marissa had the decision between Mervyn Tran and Tim Leduc. Went with Mervyn Tran. Now Tim Leduc comes back. That's an interesting little remember when in pair skating. And what would that team have looked like? But then, anything is possible. Timing is everything. But Deanna and Nate, she is someone that I think is very interesting. I think that she has a certain quality about her that makes her stand out, has made her stand out, and I'm curious to see. They did some great things at sectionals. It's one competition. They had some big falls. is nationals kind of too soon in their development? Do they need a couple more competitions going into it? I know they have a lot of simulations in Florida, but nothing is very compared to the big show. But I'm curious to see what happens to this team, because in a year I could see them being rather competitive if they can stay healthy.
I think so too. I think for now, unless in the past month they've developed a ton of different things. I think their elements, and not that their jumps and throws are fine, obviously, but I don't think they have a triple twist yet, and I don't think even their lifts. A lot of them, they're doing some of the easier lifts. I think
it's very new. Get it out there.
Yeah.
I think they could be in it for Pewter if they pulled this off. She is someone who rises to the occasion. So we've seen that with her in the past. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see. But who else are you watching? I mean, there's so many juniors. There's so many different levels at nationals. I'm looking at Krasnozhan to see what kind of quads he will do. You talk about development. I hope that we talk about programs with him from next season, that the hokey cowboy rodeo number that we are doing is not something we will see 2 years in a row. But I think that he is someone technically that I'm certainly watching. Cameron Pulkinen, Tom Z on the Z squad, as he said.
I like him a lot, actually. From his junior Grand Prix, I thought he has a lot of potential and maybe even buck some of the trend of the stereotype that you get from some of Tom Z's men. I think he has a lot of artistic potential.
Yeah. I think Tessa Hong, will she go to Junior Worlds? Will she do well at Junior Worlds? It's time to, they have to, if they want to develop her for the future, now is the time to kind of move in that direction. I did see some talent in the novice and intermediate ladies, which I didn't see a year ago. So I'm feeling a little bit more promising about that. I thought that my little son, William Annis, who was like my little mini-me, amazing. Obviously the best skater of the event all week. I think I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the Parsons and our junior ice dance teams. It seems like they've been in juniors for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I'm very curious to see when they're going to make that push to break through.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing I was thinking about too was for those junior teams, and yes, Hawaii can Maker aren't junior, but they're almost, they're like the next quad team that we're putting them in. After the Shibs and Chalk and Bates are done, Marina and Igor aren't going to have a top U.S. There's going to be an opening, and it's going to be interesting to see where these teams move. I think Igor already has Ponomarenko, they're my pick for like 2026. but I think there's some openings there that'll be really interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with them. So what is your preview moment of the week that your eye has? Is it Mariah's triple axel? I mean, what is your MK moment of the week thus far that you have your eye on for nationals? So
I think it has to be the triple axel, but then also I don't know if you saw Lin-Manuel Miranda reposting I think an intermediate skater at nationals or sectionals or something. Like, please, tweet us more, Lin-Manuel.
Yes. Well, I have to say, in addition to the triple axel, that I have to say that Gracie Gold has been a quote machine this year wherever she has gone, and I have to think that her press conferences at nationals are going to be something else, no matter how she does. Yeah. I think everyone's going to be there waiting for it. I'm very curious. I think she's outdone Ashley in the quote machine. I'm ready to see what's going to happen in ice dance. I think that's going to be a really interesting competition as we head to the free dance. We want to know, what is your MK moment of the week? How wonderful was William Annis when you saw him? How much did you enjoy his spiral sequence? As always, we want to remind you to hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.